it's evolving towards a goal. And the goal is the self-exploration and self-identification of the primary teller. But to go further than that, I think it's helpful to think of what is the goal in terms of human beings. And essentially, if there is one ultimate shared reality, then the goal should essentially be something akin to love, which is like the expansion of your identity to include others' identities, and that to do that as far as possible. And once you've done that, to the extent that it's possible with the entirety of the reality system, and you're taking into account every single perspective of every single person across time, then you get to something approaching what is the purpose of reality. And so it sounds like really sappy, but it's like the purpose is intelligent unity, because it's a test in a certain sense to see, there are all these material things which turn us away from the ultimate purpose and the ultimate reality, etc. And then for us, the purpose is actually to realize that actually all of those things are illusory, and it's just to see essentially for reality, like what it's striving towards is for all of the separate souls, all of the separate individuals to realize their essential basis in unity and cohere on that basis. And then that dissolves the distinction between the many and the one, between Atman and Brahman. The one becomes multiple for the joy of becoming one again. Everything flows from the ultimate reality and then has to arduously find its way back to that. And the way we do that as humans is essentially through it's basically the same as classical ethics, but then you can think at bigger levels of like, what is the purpose, what is the ultimate end of star systems or galaxies or life. It's essentially just like a very generalized version of ethics, but like the purpose at our scale is essentially the golden rule, which is like to treat others as you would want to be treated, and to think of yourself because the self is not just me, but is all of reality and all of other human beings, and to evolve peacefully at all of our levels of what's called stratified identity. So we have to respect and support all of our different levels of which we belong to, as an individual, as a family, community, our race, humanity, and ultimate reality. And to peacefully exist on all of those levels is like the ultimate goal.
You went through various levels of like degradation away from the more eternal, away from the more formal, on your way down here, and so you have to return by those same levels, again, as Proclus says. So you don't just join in union with anybody, you join in union with those who share these formal characteristics at various levels. You have different responsibilities to different people, and ultimately you join your will to the will of the primary teller, and that looks a certain way, and it leads to the greatest unity, right? Not everything that appears to be unification is actually ultimately contributing to that kind of end goal of cosmic unification, which we might see as like the kind of eschatological endpoint of all of this, kind of the global universal self-realization, self-actualization, where the whole universe knows the CTMU and teaches itself the CTMU or something like that. Is that the endpoint, or what's the eschaton?
I think that is essentially the endpoint, is, not specifically the current formulation and the current words of the CTMU, but the CTMU is structured in such a way that like all of the further explications of it, because it's just positing itself as a broad framework, all of the further explications of it are sub-languages of the original theory. And so it's the fuller and fuller self-knowledge of the reality system through, essentially secondary tellers working to unify and harmonize all of the different, forms of like, we have beauty and justice and brotherly love. And if you can bring all those together and bring everything that serves the primary teller into one unity and find its essence and it's kind of actually like, moksha or nirvana, because it's like but it's something bigger than that. It's like by dissolving your individual identity and dissolving the individual identity of everything in creation, it somehow strengthens that individual identity, and there's this continuous process whereby your personal identity, even though it's fully one with God, basically, is fortifying and continually renewing the self-identification of the primary teller. And so you are engaged, and so the task, I guess, is to engage everything in the world in the process of creation.
Like in Proclus on the Timaeus, and I think in the Timaeus itself, you know, ultimately we are part of this same kind of process of cosmogenesis and world rejuvenation also. So we have that to look forward to.